Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about the biggest mic drop that I have ever experienced. So let's get into it. I think the specific question here was, Frederick, what's the biggest, when have you been the most right with a coworker? I'm assuming I've been able to mic drop maybe is a good term for it because I don't really know an alternative way of saying this, but that's just me and my limited vocabulary. So if I think about this a little bit, I suppose it would be. I'll pick one of these because I can. There's really only one in recent time that stands out to me. But usually I will tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody. But I have this gift, and it's a special one that I try to nurture as much as I can, and I never take it for granted because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But it works on average. I have a pretty good track record. If I retire from programming, I'm going to become a psychic because I have this uncanny ability sometimes to predict the future. And I don't really know how I do it, but sometimes I see that, these things are happening right now. And if things continue this way, it's probably going to end with us being in a future state that is this. And that's just part of the magical process. I don't know how it works. And that happens on a very regular basis. And then I try to tell people about it, my coworkers, my bosses, and so forth. And it's like I'm saying something that isn't really either believable or it's me I'm telling them something that doesn't seem to move them in some direction or something like that. I've just boiled it down together with my career coach to the fact that I am a really, really shitty salesman. And I don't have any problems believing that. I mean, I have no problems talking to people, and I have no problem sitting here and having this fun little morning with you. Well, you don't know that it's morning, but if in case you were wondering, it's 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm sitting here. So there, anywho, I can do that, no problems. But getting someone to just understand that this is gonna happen or sell an idea, I really suck at. So there's so many times that I've failed at doing this specific thing that it is for me a very common thing to get to a point where I get there and I get to where everything I predicted happens, and then I sit there and I go, I told you so. I told you so. I vaguely remember this handsome fellow a little bit while back, and he's very humble as well, of course, who had this thought that this was going to happen. And it's like something from a fairy tale. And he was warning, he was crying wolf, he was saying do this and that, otherwise this is going to happen. And nobody listened. And who was that again? I can't remember. And even though I don't want to say that I get to say it because I want to say that I'm forced to say it because that's the thing. I don't want to be the I told you so person. I want to be the person who said, yeah, we should do this, and then people listen, and then we do that, and we should make a change, and things continue, right? I'll give you a concrete example of this, because it's happened so many, many times, but this was one of those times when it was really overt. So I was working with this company where basically we were in a situation where we were selling to customers, right? Yeah, as you will do, right? And we had a sales team where we had a product which was fairly fresh, was fairly young. It had been around for a little while, of course. It had matured. We had basically one major client that had bought into the whole thing, right? And so, as most startup or younger companies will do, they will try to sell this to more people, just push it. Because if you're met with success with one company, why not be met with success with the second company? And this is usually where startups start to realize something. They hit a wall, and that is that they will get a sensation of whether or not their idea is scalable or not. And this is the tricky part about being a startup, or the tricky part of scaling a system, because, and even you programmers out there, or we programmers, may not understand that scaling is more working on multiple levels. You see, it's not just about scaling things in terms of performance. It's not just about scaling it in terms of accessibility and developer velocity and things like that. It is also the question of, is this solution that you have created actually going to be applicable and interesting to more than one customer? Is it mass consumption? Is it a mass consumption type of thing? Can you resell to more than one company? And that, my friends, was something that my sales at the time, my sales department was facing, and they were vastly underestimating how hard that was. You see, they thought that they would just continue with the same success rate they had for the first company that they were dealing with, and they were completely sold on this idea that it worked the first time. Why wouldn't it work the second time? And they hit a brick wall with selling to more than one customer. And the brick wall that they couldn't really, they had many ideas. They were saying, okay, it's probably the price, it's probably the time it takes to do, to get the product up and running. There are all these kind of ideas. So what I did was basically this. I do the thing that I love doing, and that is to have someone to sit and talk to. So I went to my sales department and I had a few lunches with them, and I asked them, okay, can you just describe to me kind of how does your day work? What are the main pain points? What are the main issues that you have when you are in a discussion with a customer? And just can I kind of figure that out? And so they started talking. I talked to every single one individually. Basically, I had to sit down with each of them. And they explained their situation, and they said, yeah, that's the price that is the problem. The next person said that it's the scope. It's kind of hard. They don't really know what's entailed in doing integrating to the system, or to get the system up and running, and what are they buying, or a third person was saying. And I got this very strong sensation that they don't know what they are selling. They are not aligned on what they are selling. So my thought was very simple. I thought, all right, maybe this is actually the problem. Maybe it is the fact that they don't actually know. We don't have a defined product. We are extremely liquid. We want to be flexible, of course, because flexibility means that more people, in theory, will want to buy into the product. But I said, the problem is that we're kind of lacking a concrete product that you can ship. If you went in and wanted to buy a vacuum cleaner, you don't want to stand there and give the clerk a specification for the vacuum cleaner at that point. You just want to be told, this is the thing that we're selling, this is the thing that is going to, and this is the value that this produces. It's ready to go. Are you interested? That's this process that would be the smoothest for you if you're looking for this sort of thing, right? So I thought, maybe this is what we as a company should start with. Maybe we should actually sit down and we should define our products, because we have multiple solutions. That's the thing. We're trying to sell this big blob of, you can pick whatever you want. But maybe by just defining it and actually having a sales strategy that goes and says, all right, you can have an API solution, you can have a web solution, you have all these options, and we can offer them all, and then you can pick the one that actually feels right for you, or the one that seems the most feasible for you to integrate or to apply to your company. So I started pushing this idea, and people were like, yeah, it sounds good, Fredrik, but we don't have time for that. And I'm we literally have to spend just a few hours to define this, and then we can see if it's actually a solid idea, because it's low cost for us to sit down let's say 2 hours and define some concepts and then show it to the customers and see if they resonate with it. No deal, none. Nobody listened. And 6 or 7 months later, after I continuously pushed this idea, because they're still facing this problem over and over and over, they're completely sold on the idea. If they just keep on being better salesmen and they just keep at it, they're going to get through it. And then finally they have a lead on a fairly major client. And the client, like, they go far into discussions, and then the client finally just goes, "No, we're sorry. Like, you don't have an API-based solution. It doesn't seem that you have something that the thing that we actually need." And they do the thing that they think that they can do, and that is to just go there and say, "Yeah, but we can build it. We're flexible." And like, "Yeah, but we need it today. You're not ready. You don't have a defined product. Like." We can't buy something that doesn't exist today, and we're not willing to pay you the cost of like developing it just for us. We just want an off-the-shelf solution." Boom. And then there was a big gathering for the company, and everybody was talking about it. "Oh yeah, this was like, it was a big letdown, and we're really disappointed." And the day after we lost that customer, the day after, the CEO goes up and says, "We need to define an API-based product. We need to specify the different options that we are selling to our customers, so we have a clear sales strategy." Boom. I dropped the mic 5-10 times, and I just sat there and I went, "Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go." And you know what the funny part was? I actually told my coworkers, because some of them were kind of listening, and I was saying, "You know what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that the first time we lose a customer, or the sales department actually feels pain from what I'm saying, like in other words, something negative happens because we don't have this thing that I'm stating that we need. That's the second everything's going to happen. It's the same thing that's going to happen. It's the same thing in security. Nobody gives a shit about security until there's a major leak. Then everybody in sales cares about it immediately. Same thing here. Soon as they lost a customer because they didn't actually have these defined products and these options specified and actually built for the different needs of the customer, because we were basically just catering to one specific type of customer. Or rather, they thought that they were selling to everybody, when in fact they were only selling one option, which I thought was a little bit naive. And then it happens. And that's all it takes. Either you have to be the right person who suggests it, or you have to be more convincing than I am. So what I want you to take away from this is that be a better salesperson than me, a much better one, because this is something that I am working on rigorously. It's kind of funny, because the biggest tip that I got from my career coach type of manager person was that, Fredrik, your coding skill is pretty much, you're pretty solid. You're taking care of that even in your own time. So I think that maybe you should, for the sake of the company, focus more on your sales skills. So I'm becoming a no-stack developer, or a salesperson, in addition to being a programmer, which is great. And hopefully that will save me the frustration of this cycle repeating again. We will see. But otherwise, yeah, that is definitely going to be the biggest mic drop. So yeah, guys, try to, as I said, be a better salesperson than me and convince people, because otherwise you're just going to be an I told you so person. And maybe that's what you want, but I don't really like it. I like being heard. I like people acting on warnings that I give them, instead of sitting there and being smug afterwards like, haha, I foresaw this, because that's not the sort of person I want to be. Have a great day.